Welcome to the Wild Wild West version of Everlasting. Our very first Everlasting All-Stars will pair up each week.
I choose Rodrigo.
So unfair.
You're a basic You can't be critical.
I'm glad we're back. Me too.
Dude, start the show because I have thoughts about this right now.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and more importantly, from what I gathered from that little snippet, it looks like Unreal is a show that is suddenly available on Hulu, right? Instantly?
Yes. Used to be a Lifetime show. It's a fictional show about a reality show, but now it's not even a Lifetime show. It's a Hulu show, and you can get it right now.
Okay, but has there been a backlash for them not getting it right, making it too unreal to depict the behind the scenes of a reality show?
It is dramatized.
That's not the reality of a reality show.
Yeah, you're like, this is nothing like this fictitious account of the backstage of a reality show.
It is dramatized, but I believe the creator was a producer on a reality show.
All right, that's legit in my book, but not as legit as our special guest joining us from FilmJoy. That's youtube.com/FilmJoy. It's Mikey Neumann.
Hi, that show looks spicy.
It's great.
Spicy show.
When I first saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, so this is a reality show? And then you realize, oh, no, it's a show about a reality. That makes it even spicier. It's delicious.
It's a habanero of spicy.
It is.
I thought a habanero was the habanero of spicy.
All right, folks, we've got a lot of Netflix news to get through today, so we better start with our primary target. Mere day after last week's Cordkillers, the Emmy nominations were announced, and history was made. Netflix received 112 Emmy nominations. That is slightly ahead of HBO's 108, but it breaks HBO's 17-year streak as the most nominated network at the Emmys. We have a new king. Among the Netflix shows getting nominated were Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Or Queen. We have a new monarch, let's say. Among the Netflix shows getting nominated were Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Glow, The Crown, speaking of, and Stranger Things. Jason Bateman got nominated for Ozark. The USS Callister episode of Black Mirror got a nod as well. Among the other streaming competitors, Hulu got 27 nominations, 20 of which were for Handmaid's Tale. That made Handmaid's Tale the third most nominated show behind Westworld and Game of Thrones. Amazon got 22 nominations. And it's worth noting here, Allison Sheridan pointed this out on Daily Tech News Show Friday. It was only 10 years ago that HBO stopped being the only non-broadcast Emmy network. It was only 10 years ago that Mad Men and Damages and Dexter finally got Emmys for non-HBO cable channels. And now Netflix is on top of the heat. Emmys will be awarded September 17th with hosts Colin Jost and Michael Shea. We've got some Netflix business news to talk about in a second, but before we get there, let's start with this, Brian. Netflix feeling a good win here.
You know what? There is an adjacent story, and I don't want to call them sore losers, but in a public announcement, HBO said, can we go back to the Cable Ace Awards? That was fun. No, that's not a real thing.
We dominated those. Can we have those again?
But all of this makes sense, man. It turns out that when you make the type of the exact same playbook that HBO did, where you find niche stuff, you acquire incredible talent, you give it a proper budget, you don't build everything around an engine to sell dish soap. It turns out that you're going to get some garbage, but you're also going to get some truly extraordinary pieces of art. And I mean, that's pretty much been what Netflix has been aiming for what, 8 years now? How long? When did House of Cards get announced? 8 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
6.5, 7, I think.
Yeah.
I think they took a break because they're about to run season 6, but I know it's been longer than that is years.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what, though, it kind of, on the one hand, it's great. It's surprising, and it truly is historical. But on the other hand, it's almost as though we're like, holy crap, there's a field of corn over here. You know, it's like, that's what happens when you plant a field's worth of corn.
Well, HBO was only planting the best corn, and therefore they were in early. And Netflix was like, we're just going to throw seeds in the field. And you know what? Some of that corn's going to be really, really good.
Oh, but actually, to be more strategic, they're like, no. We're gonna do exactly what HBO does and get a great cornfield. But also, we're gonna get beets and we're gonna grow gummy bears, and then also we're gonna salt the earth. Right. Like they really are somehow managing to be everything to everyone, basically.
I'm curious how long
I don't know if you hear this from people, but a lot of times I hear people complain, well, Netflix is just full of trash, but which is also true. How do you reconcile that?
HBO's full of just as much trash like that. That's why, like,
fired.
Well, a little bit, but like when Game of Thrones is over, what takes that throne? You know, no pun intended, but I think like the shows that keep everyone there, Sopranos, you know, Game of Thrones, even Breaking Bad on FX. You have these shows AMC, not FX, that like hold a network afloat. And Netflix is, I mean, they're churning those out left and right, and I'm struggling to think of the HBO must-watch show right now.
Well, it was Westworld. That's the one everyone talks about.
I cannot be the only one that got halfway through that season and was like, okay, what?
We definitely one of the letters that did not make it into today's episode was somebody just scathing that we're watching it wrong and like correcting us for not enjoying it correctly.
You're enjoying art incorrectly.
It was hilarious, and the only way it would have made it in there would have been unpleasant for the person who wrote it. So I did both of us a favor and didn't put it in there.
But I mean, the point works both ways, right? Which is there are a lot of people enjoying Westworld, even if you aren't. But Game of Thrones kind of is different. Like, there are fewer people trashing Game of Thrones than there are saying, I don't get Westworld.
I think the point I'm sort of making, because I like love what you love. If you're super into Westworld, all the power to you. I tried to watch the whole season and I couldn't do it. Game of Thrones is in that we will remember this show forever territory.
Yeah.
Like Breaking Bad before it, and like every once in a while a show steps up to the plate. And HBO used to be the one that had the greatest hitter in the league, so to speak. And now Netflix, I mean, even Stranger Things feels like a bigger show than Westworld to me at this point. I just think it's the changing of the guard in a way.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? It's bigger. We know the person writing an email about how they don't like Game of Thrones right now. We get it. There are some of you out there, but there are fewer of you. And Stranger Things, again, also universally lauded. I'm sure there are people who don't like Stranger Things either and don't get it, but it's all a matter of percentages. And you're right. HBO is doing a lot. We'll talk about it a little later in the show to try to cultivate that next one. But Westworld isn't quite as big as Game of Thrones, even though it's their big one. And there isn't another Sopranos, et cetera, that's very obvious anyway.
Sure. Well, and keep in mind also, to me, the interesting thing about Netflix succeeding in this space is that, yes, you have the whole spectrum of quality, but you also have this breadth of covering so many different niches. Look,
real quickly, because I don't want to interrupt you too much, but you do get things like Issa Rae's Insecure on HBO, which are fantastic niche programs, but it's just not as wide as Netflix.
Yeah, and specifically, just look at the titles. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is a very different show from Glow, is a very different show from Stranger Things, is a very different show from Ozark, which is a very different show from Black Mirror. Like, that is an astonishing, HBO with their original programming does kind of have a type. It's I don't want to say it's super narrow, but it's much more narrow than where Netflix is going.
I think one of the points that I sort of just came to that is interesting is I think Westworld would be more successful on Netflix. Exact same show, but being able to binge it.
Yep.
Because like my problem with Westworld was also it wanted me to do like an hour of homework before the new episode aired because it's so densely plotted, and I think that held The Wire back, and shows like that as well, where there's so much going on that when you watch it week to week, you're just like, huh?
Yeah. And in fact, I think that many shows, and this would be an interesting thing to do a deep dive on, I think just like some movies get an upgrade when you see them on a small screen. Like when you pay your ticket, sit down, and you got the big screen in front of you, and you got your popcorn, you're like, this better knock my socks off. And if it doesn't knock your socks off, you're like, man, I feel robbed. That kind of sucks. Same movie shows up while you're doing laundry, and then you watch it, and you're like, oh, that was cute. That was fun. And you end up putting it in a better category. Likewise, I think binging shows, I absolutely agree. Everybody I know who watched the first season of Westworld as binged it, loved it universally, said it was the greatest thing ever. Everybody who watched week after week, or a lot of people who watched week after week like we did, was like, ooh, that's a lot of work, that one. And so it could be that structurally Netflix is benefiting from the fact that nobody watches any of their programming week after week after week.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually watching Lost in Space week after week by accident. Like it's not something that's top of my queue, so I'll watch it every once in a while when I get a little extra time, and it is a different experience than other people, because I'm now just catching up to that part where people like, yeah, it starts a little slow, but then it gets going, and it's getting going, but it's getting going slow because I'm not watching it one after the other like they did. It's a whole different experience. Redef.com has an extensive explanation of how Netflix is winning. The TLDR is that more subscribers means Netflix gets to make more shows because it's not limited by a time slot. HBO is kind of in the same ballpark, but they do have a linear channel, so they do kind of have to pay attention to time slots. Netflix doesn't have to pay attention to that at all. It's entirely a la carte. People are more likely to use it if they pay for it too, versus a free, not a free, but like a cable channel that's part of their cable package, where they're like, well, I get it. I pay for cable, so I get it whether I'm not paying specifically for AMC. I'm not paying specifically for FX. With Netflix, they're like, oh no, I'm paying $10 a month for Netflix. I should probably use it. That's in the back of a lot of people's mind. And because Netflix has a world market, they have unprecedented scale. In their earnings report today, they talked a lot about their projections for increasing viewers in India by making Indian content. But that Indian content is also going to be popular with Indians around the world in other countries and with people who are interested in those kinds of movies. And so they get this massive scale that almost no other network has at this point. On the downside, today on their earnings call, Netflix subscribers announced 130 million worldwide last quarter, which is up, but not up enough. They had expected more. Analysts expected 1 million more. Netflix added 4.47 million subscribers internationally. Everybody thought they were going to get closer to 5. They added 670,000 subscribers in the U.S. Everybody thought it was 1.19 million. So it's a lot less there. Netflix said it over forecasted quarterly fluctuations in the pace of new customers. So expect to see a lot of Netflix has blown it, Netflix is over stories from the people reacting to the earnings report. But we've seen this before where Netflix has a quarter that misses expectations, and they have always bounced back because of these things that we were talking about from the Redef.com story.
Yeah, quarterly reports and expectations and all that, my eyes tend to glaze over, but what I'm seeing from Netflix seems universally good. It doesn't look like they're going to crumble anytime soon. Unlike
if there's something to pay attention to, it's that the growth is slowing. They're not growing by as much every quarter. Like the last 5 quarters have been a little smaller growth than the quarter before.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when a virus takes over the entire Petri dish, is at some point there's no more Petri dish. You know?
Right. I'm curious. I'm curious how much you were talking about the thing with HBO versus Netflix, and like HBO really puts all their programming between like 8 p.m. Central and 11 p.m. Central on Sundays. And it's like whatever the biggest show is, whatever the follow-up show they're testing out, John Oliver, call it a day. Like Netflix you can watch shows for 6 hours that are brand new that day.
Yeah, and I guess they have a different tool set, because I didn't think about this. Netflix, on the one hand, they have the ability to binge everything or whatever, but they don't have the power of the lead-in. They cannot automatically force a certain amount, a percentage reliably, of people who watch Game of Thrones to ease their way into the thing after it. Yeah.
Though they do recommend shows and autoplay when you finish binging a show or a movie.
That is correct.
They do have a suggestion.
And then they also have that very, we'll say, loud billboard. You log in and just suddenly they're playing a comedy special.
Boom. What I love is when they give me one that I really like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch that later. And then it never shows up again. And I can't remember what it was. And I didn't favorite it or star it or anything.
Or you didn't take action right there. And maybe, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere is an egghead at Netflix saying, good, we're going to train him so he knows, click it right now or else you'll never see this again.
I mean, they're not an egghead. They're just
no,
really
they
smart.
they have eggs for literal
just a really
heads.
smart lady at Netflix who does that. She doesn't have an actual egg for a head, Brian.
Man, 4 eyes. And
the fact that you think there's anyone at Netflix that does one entire job and it's not a multiple 1,000-person company is quite adorable.
Yeah. That's not true of us here at Cordkillers. We have thousands of people working for us. They're you. By supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cordkillers. Each of you have an exact job, which is give us $1 and we give you the world.
Yeah, man. Look, we say this all the time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys changed our life. You rocked our world. Our socks are no longer on our bodies. And that's all because of the fantastic patrons.
Yeah, the socks are way over there.
R.I.P. socks.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers to keep our socks off our feet. Let's talk about how to watch. So this is interesting. Roku introduced wireless speakers, but only for its Roku TVs. Now, wireless speakers is a big deal. If you don't realize this, it's really hard to do wireless speakers well because of lag. It's really hard to keep the sound quality good and keep it in sync with the TV. But because Roku has something called the Roku Connect platform, they announced this at CES earlier this year, they can sync up their wireless speakers with their Roku televisions. Now, theoretically, they could do this with the boxes and the sticks too. They're not yet. Right now, if you want to buy a Roku TV wireless speaker, it only works with a Roku TV, but it's going to be better quality sound than you would get from the television's default speakers. It's not as good as if you went and built a home theater yourself, but if you're someone who's like, I just need it to be a little better, and I don't want to spend a lot of time setting it up, running wires, I just want to press a button and make it work, that's what this can do. The speakers also come with a voice remote. It's not really a smart speaker, but you can do things like say, play, pause, all the things that you can say to your app now too. You get that as well. There's something called the Roku Touch Remote, which is a little square that you can put on your coffee table, and you can do play, pause, and that there. There's even some customizable buttons on that. Right now, it's $150 if you pre-order it. That price goes up to $180 on July 24th. And then on October 15th, when these things start shipping, it goes to $200. So the earlier you order, the little discount you get. But it's an interesting approach, Brian, to say, like, if you care a little bit about sound and you care a lot about convenience, let's have our convenience trump your fidelity concerns and improve everything for you.
I think this is a really smart way to roll this out because one of the things that I would imagine they have with all of their partnerships where the Roku is built into the television is all the appropriate schematics and specifications of how many microseconds delay it takes to display the thing or whatever. There's two sides of this. One is we know what the TV looks like. We know the hardware because we're providing it. It's very easy for us to use this platform to sync everything up. If we release this on its own, there are a lot of Rokus hooked up to a lot of different systems. We don't know what television, what kind of delay it is that in order to get everything synchronized, and that's a lot of trouble. Also, the type of people who buy Roku boxes separate from their television tend to, I would imagine, be the type of people who already have a home theater set up that they like, and therefore that is going to be a smaller market. The whole reason that they're in that market with, baked into televisions is for convenience. This is a great way to make it just a little bit better without having to invest a lot of resources to make that happen.
Mikey, what do you make of this? Is it something you're even concerned with, the sound of your TV?
Not in because I have a sound bar in the back and I have a home theater here. I do remember one thing and it's my only foible with Bluetooth speakers is that can interfere with game controllers. and you can get some input lag from that. And for those of us really serious Rocket League boys or girls,
It matters.
no, it was something that drove me nuts. But I don't know. It's just little wireless speakers.
I'll tell you what,
Some
man.
people want them.
I am the target market for this. Unfortunately, we already have this studio thing, which we're about to tear down. So, too late. You were too late, Roku.
Yeah. So if Wi-Fi, one-touch support, not probably as good as a sound bar, although we still have to get these things in the hands of the review unit places like The Verge and CNET to find out for sure, but better than the thing built into your television. All right, let's talk about what to watch on this stuff in Under Surveillance.
It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Oh my, the Twitters are alive with people talking about Sacha Baron Cohen's Who is America? It premiered on Showtime on Sunday. It's a 7-part series where Cohen does his usual thing of getting people to say in seriousness things on camera that sound insane.
Yeah. You know what is brilliant about this, whether you like it or hate it, it's brilliant in that the very method by which this content is created guarantees that everybody we'll say duped, who felt duped, becomes an advertisement for it. They all have to issue press releases saying, I can't believe this. This is bad because
Taken out of context.
I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Everybody's hearing about it already. And their advertising budget might as well be zero.
Mikey, did you watch any of this? I didn't watch any of it myself.
I tried to watch the first episode. I watched the whole NRA segment at the end. There's a lot of Baron Cohenisms, we'll say, where it actively gets pretty intense, and I don't know, it feels mean to me.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they shouldn't be mean to people that are in positions of power that are abusing them. Not saying that at all. It is hard to watch because it's so cringy.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, I don't know that it is a net bad thing for society to be trained to act at all times like they're being viewed by the whole world. Like, sure. At one point, I forgot what it was. There was some off-color thing that I texted my wife and then spent 4 more texts putting it in context, not for my wife, who knew exactly what I was saying, but to whatever future hacker would eventually crack into this and read that one thing. It's like, I don't know that that's a bad thing to have those thoughts in your head. Like, what if the whole world watched this and you didn't get to control the way the message went out?
It's like one of the segments in the NRA thing, he kind of shifts to talking about his fake child, who was killed by gun violence. And the person he's talking to doesn't give half of a crap, which is a important thing. But I'm like, is this comedy now? Like, is this what we're doing? It's not for everyone, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm glad that someone
it's
exists
intense.
that is holding these people accountable. That's great.
It's cringeworthy. But I think one of the other things he may be trying to do or inadvertently is doing is that one of the things about persuading people is if you give them the facts, you actually drive them into their position more. But if you extremely agree with them, sometimes you shift them to a more moderate position. And his characters have always done that. And they're doing that in this series too, which is violently agree with someone to the point that that person may actually start to feel uncomfortable about agreeing with them. Or if they don't in the video, people watching start to feel that cringiness and that uncomfortableness about agreeing with whatever position he's going after. It's a psychological thing. It doesn't make him right or wrong, but it is a psychological thing that's been shown to have an effect.
I'll tell you what, man, this makes me think a bit. I was talking to Bonnie about, our diet and why I don't go to Facebook. I realized that I don't go to Facebook and I don't consume Facebook for the same reason I don't pirate movies. Part of it is I don't mind spending the money in order to get a reliable experience that doesn't have such a high risk. Obviously, not everything pirated has malware in it, but certainly more of it does than in the open marketplace where you're paying for stuff. And I don't want intellectual contagions. I don't want to expose my eyeballs to words that are deliberately written by somebody who has the goal of occupying brain cycles on something that is not me feeding my children or taking care of our little business or whatever. And so I wonder. I don't know, this whole outrage engine thing, and I wonder how this ties into that whole bigger story. I'm gonna have to. I guess I have to watch it now and digest it.
Extinction begins streaming on Netflix July 27th. It's a movie starring Michael Pena, Lizzie Kaplan, and Mike Coulter. Mike Coulter plays Luke Cage. It's an alien invasion film that was passed on by Universal. So your mileage may vary, but if you like a alien invasion disaster film, there's one waiting for you.
So by passed on, you mean like somebody paid for it, they made it, and then they're like, no, we don't want to distribute it? Or
well, and distributors sometimes will be like, they'll have an option to say yay or nay, and that's how you get direct to DVD.
Got it.
Days.
Okay.
That's kind of like that, I think.
That feels pretty normal. I'm waiting for like Netflix, because Netflix figured out TV, like the difference between a 1-off 2-hour thing and a 8-off 1-hour thing, or like whatever. But after Bright, I've been waiting for them to make that $100 million picture that's like, whoa, okay, Netflix gets the movie thing. And yeah, somebody's mentioning Cloverfield Paradox in the comments, and it hasn't happened yet. And I'm rooting for it for that reason. And I love Michael Pena. He is the best. And Lizzie Kaplan.
I love Michael Pena too. Stranger Things posted a fake ad for the new Starcart Mall in Hawkins, Indiana, featuring all the things like Claire's and things you'd expect from an 80s mall, as well as an ice cream parlor that shows Maya Hawke, a new character, alongside good old Steve, serving you some ice cream. The mall opens next summer. So I guess that means we get Stranger Things season 3 next summer too. I don't know.
Now, how strong a correlation do you think there is on that? Do you think that this is all a wink and a nod, or
because Stranger Things always comes in the autumn, but this season happens in the summer, so maybe they're like, well, we're gonna open it in the summer too.
Also, if you want to surprise people and delight them, then you would certainly loosely not say it's going to be. Yeah, exactly, right.
It would also be a fast turnaround. That last season came around right before Halloween.
Well, and it did feel a little rushed. So maybe this is some between the lines saying we're going to take our time on this one.
You know what will happen this summer? Production on a new Downton Abbey film written by show creator Julian Fellows. Brian Percival will direct. He directed The Book Thief and About a Girl. He also directed Downton Abbey's TV pilot, so he's familiar with the show as well.
Is this going to be the kind of thing where it's like it tries to stand alone, but if you've watched Downton Abbey, you're going to get more out of it? Do you think? I guess they're not announcing that. That's probably how the press release went. It's a whingy guy just saying.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be like, you all love Downton Abbey. We're giving you more Downton Abbey. Like, get in on the Downton Abbey. Go binge Downton Abbey, and you can enjoy the Downton Abbey because Downton Abbey.
I want to know what the plot line is that they're like, oh yeah, now it's a movie. Like, is this a summer film?
It's just going to be
is Downton Abbey going to blow up?
I mean, it's I'm sure it's just going to be like, you appeal to the base. It's going to be like the Veronica Mars movie or whatever.
They've done longer Christmas specials before, and my feeling is they'll probably just like, we're going to make it look even more Downton-y and Abbey-er than before.
That's how the trailer rolls. It's Downtoner and Abbey-er than ever before.
And they'll move it forward a few years, because one of the things that people love about Downton Abbey is the period piece element. Move it forward a few years, and you can have new period elements that you never saw before. They're dealing with new styles of cars and radios.
Opens with the sci-fi cityscape, and then the doctors come in. They're like, we were able to clone all of them. All of them, yes. And
they were frozen in a freak accident in 1927.
Robot bodies are 3D printed.
Coming this summer, Abbey Infinite.
Activate the Abbey.
I'd watch that.
Hollywood Reporter says HBO has approved a series from Joss Whedon called The Nevers, about a group of women in the Victorian era who manifest powers and fight evil men. So that's one of HBO's new bets.
And then they invade the Abbey. Now only the Downtonists will survive.
To Downton Abbey, unfortunately.
Did you watch?
So, Mikey, does this sound like something that might catch your interest back, in that Game of Thrones size slot in your heart?
It could. I mean, 10 years ago, I think that was more exciting information. than it is today, especially what we know about Joss today. And I'm not going to go into that. But after Dollhouse and especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he just kind of like did the pilot and pawned off on his brother, which might have been the plan the whole time. But like I would get excited about a Joss Whedon show and then it wouldn't be that. So I'm curious. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Deadline reports that MGM has hired Neil Blomkamp to make a sequel/reboot of RoboCop called RoboCop Returns. Justin Rhodes, who worked on Terminator 6, is rewriting a script by Ed Neumeyer and Michael Miner. The reported plot synopsis is that anarchy reigns and that a fate of Detroit hangs in the balance as RoboCop makes his triumphant return to fight crime and corruption.
So, Mikey, this is a bit of an emotional roller coaster for me because I love RoboCop. I love Neil Blomkamp. But then I think of, we just got a reboot. And also, what was up with that ninja in the third one? And
we got something that looked like a reboot. I wouldn't.
Right, but then also with Neil Blomkamp, we got Chappie and I don't know. There are enough for every vector on this. I could think of something I love deeply and something I didn't care for, and I'm left with this complete Rorschach test and no ability to know whether or not I should be excited about it.
Well, I mean, they haven't shot anything. There's no footage. We don't know what the script looks like. So cautiously optimistic is the only thing you can ever really be. But the fact that Neil Blomkamp is stepping into Paul Verhoeven-sized shoes with an intent to fulfill that, like if Blomkamp was announced as a dude making a new Starship Troopers movie, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
That tracks, yeah.
This is supposedly a script that was immediately written after the first RoboCop, and Verhoeven just wasn't interested. And so it's been kicking around for a while, and they're finally saying, well, let's polish that one up.
As long as it's not RoboCop 3, I'm good.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if they, on purpose, did the retro future aesthetic to it and they made it a direct, immediate sequel after RoboCop 1? They're like cool. Complete with Peter Weller's face.
Yeah.
You know, they de-age him and all that stuff.
I'd be curious.
Finally, Brian, we have progress on Apple television shows.
I'll believe it when I hear you say those words.
Casting news. Apple's sci-fi series C, which is from Peaky Blinders' Stephen Knight and Hunger Games director Francis Lawrence, has signed Jason Momoa to star. This is the series that'll be set in the far future where humans have lost the sense of sight, but a set of twins is born who can see. And of course, Jason Momoa will be breaking type and playing a warrior leader.
Longer than the history of all iterations of this show has been the thought of Apple dominating television in any way or making any good TV.
Jason Momoa, though, Brian. They've cast Jason Momoa.
He looks nice.
He is a handsome man.
Great.
I'm done.
All right.
I saw Justice League. He looks great.
Al Drogo. All right, let's talk about what we're watching. Starting with you, Mikey. What's been filling your eyeballs up lately?
I preface with I do have a weird affinity for like odd reality shows. I don't care for reality shows where the editing is what it is, which is every show. But I've been watching the hell out of BattleBots a lot.
Oh yeah,
because their heartbreak is real. Even if they try to edit around it and create something, like when these people watch their creation to get destroyed, they are honestly the saddest people. And I don't know, I like feel for that. And I've been watching a lot of MasterChef, another one where the emotions are real, where they do everything they can to edit a dumb reality show out of it. I watched the season 2 of Glow. It was amazing. And I've tried to watch Westworld a bunch. Didn't take.
And you can binge it if you want too, and it's still not taken. That's interesting. And you love Glow. I actually watched a couple of the episodes of season 2. I haven't made it too far in, but it does seem like it's
hearing
carrying
from
on.
Multiple vectors. Like even just now, Mikey's talking about Glow, and Bryce is nodding his head vigorously. Like by all accounts, season 2 is really, really good.
Well, they're so like the first season was about starting this wrestling network for this group of women, or season 1 was, and then season 2 is about what that's like in the day-to-day And I think the wrestling storylines they come up for the show within a show are still some of the best storytelling on TV. And that's the show in the show. Outside of that, you have this great show about relationships and friendships and what those go through when you work together.
All right, I've been watching Broadchurch all 3 seasons in preparation for Olivia Colman appearing on The Crown. No, actually,
light one that Broadchurch.
Yeah, totally light. Especially that 3rd season. That's all about recreating a crime scene involving a rape. Super, light, fun watching, but really well done. And my joke about Olivia Colman is because Chris Chibnall, who did Broadchurch, and Jodie Whittaker, who stars in Broadchurch, are, of course, the new Doctor Who team. Chibnall running the show and Jodie Whittaker starring as the Doctor. We got our first teaser of that this week, and we'll probably get a full trailer out of Comic-Con later this week. So cannot recommend it enough. Like you say, Mikey, it's a heavy show, and season 2 does drop off in quality a little bit because they try something and it's really hard to make work because they're basically retelling the same story of season 1, but at trial
of it almost.
But it's still good, and season 3 is amazing as well. So highly recommend Broadchurch. Even if you don't like Doctor Who, it doesn't have anything to do with Doctor Who. It's a intense mystery story, and it gave me even more appreciation of David Tennant's skills as an actor as well.
Absolutely, it's also just like an actor's showcase across the board, regardless of age or anything. Like they're all the most amazing acting you'll see on TV.
Brian, you got anything else to add?
No, it was a busy week. I had a bit going on. We closed on the 7 Acres out in West Austin. I've given 2 tours so far. It's a lot of fun to wave your hands and talk about the crazy backstory of this clearly haunted place, and then talk about the crazy future story of how it will be even more haunted by the time we're done. And then also taught a class at Wizard Academy, and then real thing, shot some episodes where I acted alongside Macaulay Culkin. We shot a thing where Macaulay Culkin plays Jason Murphy. It was so much fun. It was a blast, and I can't wait. I think the first of those episodes will come out this Friday. Yeah, I think awesome. You're gonna love it.
Excellent.
Oh, also I watched Preacher
and Deadwood.
And Deadwood,
right. I watched those too. We should mention that. All right, Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey guys, Richard wrote in earlier this year with this pick. Oh, it went away. Oh, it disappeared. No. Okay, here he goes. He writes, Bryce, for an on the lookout, check out a Netflix original called Good Morning Call. I've watched about 80% of the Netflix originals, and out of nowhere, this is my favorite, and it's completely unexpected because I lean towards the gritty shows like Ozark and Bloodline and Game of Thrones. It's a Japanese series set in the senior year of high school, where, due to circumstances, the most popular guy in school is scammed into sharing an apartment with a timid, quirky, but pretty girl. The actress is amazing, who at sewing her emotions in the show is both hilarious and will bring you to tears. It's fascinating to see the modern Japanese culture. 2 seasons are out, and there are 17 episodes. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, 2 seasons of Good Morning Call are streaming now on Netflix, and there are rumblings of a 3rd season.
The timid girl looks like she could be an AKB or something. Like she's definitely not.
She's got like a mainstream sort of pretty.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah,
I'm gonna change up the show order. Normally we save letters to the very end, but this one is germane to the situation.
Well, what's the email for?
The emails is from, the email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. That's where you should send in your recommendations for stuff we should be on the lookout for. But Harold wrote us saying, gentlemen, I'd love to support your program as it has really helped me since I've been watching. However, I'm not a Patreon fan. PayPal, check, you name it, and I'll try to do it. Thanks for what you're doing for the community. We don't have a PayPal, and we don't accept checks or money orders, but you'll notice all the way back to episode 1, we always factor in a little place where we do an ad. Sometimes it's Brian, sometimes it's Tom. Turns out we do other things than Cordkillers, and if you want to give us money, buy books from Tom. Tom, do you have any books that what? Oh my God! You just wrote a book right now!
I did. While you were talking, I wrote this book, Gallium, and got Joel Duggan to do this amazing cover. It was like that. And now you can buy it at tomsnewbook.com. It's available on Amazon. It's in the iBook store. There is an audiobook in the works. Actually, I'm going to be recording hopefully the last bits with Veronica Belmont tomorrow. So keep an eye out on Audible sometime in September for that. But it's a story about a salvage operator who wants to reveal this historical find she found, but the forces of the solar system are against her. It takes place in the same universe as another book I wrote called Lot Beta, although it's not a sequel. It stands on its own. So you check it out, Gallium at tomsnewbook.com.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to the front lines then?
Yeah, we shall. It's always a party up there. Front lines.
Yeah, this is cool. You know all that stuff we've been talking about with AT&T and what are they going to do with HBO? And oh, look at this, what they've done with DirecTV Now and the new streaming package. Well, the Department of Justice had said it would not seek an injunction to stop the merger when AT&T won its court case, but it never said it wouldn't appeal the decision. And they have appealed the decision. Thursday, it came out that the DOJ filed an appeal in the U.S. District Court in Washington. So if it prevails in court, the merger that is a month old of Time Warner and AT&T would have to be unwound.
I don't know how to feel. I mean, what happens when Dracula marries Frankenstein? Who cares? It's not good for the world.
Drakenstein or Frankula. Frankula's probably
Frankula versus.
Write that down.
Yeah,
that's my favorite cereal too.
Meanwhile, Blizzard and Disney have agreed to a multi-year deal to show Overwatch League matches on ESPN, ESPN2, Disney XD, and ABC. That includes live airings and full replays on broadcast, as well as highlight packages online. The deals do not affect Blizzard's deal with Twitch. Wednesday's quarterfinals air at 8 p.m. Eastern on Disney XD and ESPN3. Finals are set to take place at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn on July 27th and 28th. Does it feel like they're finally doing esports right? Does it feel like we're on the precipice of something?
I don't know if they're doing it right, but they're doing it big.
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting it. This is, esports coming to major networks.
I'll tell you what. My favorite thing is the fact that you have team owners. You have somebody whose full-time job is to be the smack-talking personality that represents the teams, and that is what any sport desperately needs: is a character for people to latch onto to either love or hate.
Disney just needs Fortnite now, and they'll corner the market on games everybody's is playing.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's all coming to TV right as TV comes to the internet.
We did it.
Netflix has been testing playing trailers for its originals on the lock screen of the app. They wouldn't be tailored to you. They'd just be stuff that they want to promote in general. TechCrunch saw the test on a Roku app, on a Fire TV app, and Netflix confirmed that they are testing this for television versions of apps, not mobile.
That's number one. That makes sense because that's unused real estate. Recently, I told my digital assistant Siri to do a thing, and I couldn't get her to do it because she kept turning the screen blank to announce that she was there, and I was like, that's an not responsible use of real estate. But the only thing I could think of on the downside of this is, for example, you're seeing an image of BoJack Horseman there. That's something I wouldn't want my younger than 10-year-olds to even see, because they would be all like, I want the horse show. And I was like, hey, kid, you also, I don't want to pay for therapy. So how about we not even acknowledge that exists?
You're like, I'll let you know when you're damaged enough to watch BoJack Horseman and appreciate it like your father.
All right. I'm going to need some help pronouncing this name. Looks like it says...
Winding Refn.
There you go. Nicholas Winding Refn, director of the movie Drive, is launching by NWR later this month. It's a streaming service for the overlooked cult films like Night Tide, The Burning Hell, and Hot Thrills and Warm Chills. The selection will be based on themes and rotate each month, potentially along with essays, music, and photos too.
This almost sounds like the thing that you wanted, Brian, 2 weeks ago. Your Sherpa thing.
Oh, that's right. Somebody who kind of
Sherpa for cult films. Yeah.
You know what? And I had a blind spot for it because that's not my bag. But that's exactly right. It's like the difference. I could watch some really garbage movies as long as Jason Murphy is the one who explains to me going into it.
You should watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the kind of thing, cult films like this, if you're not already familiar with them, you need someone to explain, like, here's the context. Here's why it's a cult film. Here's how it was made. Here are the little interesting things to be on the lookout for.
Here's why the budget melted down, and you'll see this one moment that they covered this up.
Netflix has launched Smart Downloads for its Android app. The feature automatically deletes downloads you finished watching and replaces them with the next episode in case you forget to download it yourself before you move away from your internet connection. Users can turn off Smart Downloads in settings if they want, but it'll be on by default now.
And on the, I forget, never mind. On the obituary page, the last 2 Blockbuster video stores in Alaska have closed, leaving one last Blockbuster up and running in Bend, Oregon. The chain still has several stores and kiosks. And kiosks all break my heart in Australia.
Like Redbox, right?
Yeah, like a Redbox.
Yeah, those kinds of things. They don't have Redbox in Australia, I guess. So Blockbuster got that market.
Yeah.
So there is
that dead
Blockbuster's
media
owned by
market.
Dish, by the way.
Corner that dead media market. Sorry, what was that, Tom?
No, the Redbox is pretty vibrant right now, but Blockbuster got beat to that punch by Redbox, so it's still going. No,
I don't know. I don't know how to feel.
You don't spend a lot of time in front of grocery stores, I take it.
Do you know that a Blockbuster was a giant super bomb that could destroy an entire thing. So when something does really well, you call it a Blockbuster, and when a movie doesn't do well, you call it a bomb.
Would you call it a dud?
Both bombs.
Well, I guess it was. But movies box office bomb, right? You don't.
So if a box office bombs, it really should be unexploded bomb.
Well, that would be a
dud. Because the Blockbuster just destroys you because it's so good.
But that'd be a dud, right?
This metaphor
so it
is
should be a
away from
dud,
this.
and you hear that, but just not as often as a bomb.
Yeah.
Everyone update the dictionary.
Yeah.
And it turns out language.
We're old.
Right?
Dispatches from the front!
I still want to talk about bombs.
Spent a little bit more time on that than I intended.
No, but I'm not done yet.
Yeah, I know. I can
when
tell.
I go to Netflix, says Chris, when I go to Netflix, I'm paralyzed by the number of choices. Sometimes I even switch to some less prolific services because I just can't decide. What I'd like instead is themed streams. He's not talking about a themed list, a themed stream like science fiction documentaries, romance, sitcoms that I can join already in progress. I don't mind watching the second half of a Star Trek episode, even if it's not great, or starting partway into an old movie. These are things that I enjoy watching, but probably wouldn't pick from Netflix's huge catalog. Of course, that was the only way we could watch TV when we grew up. So maybe I'm just being nostalgic, says Chris.
He literally just pitched you television.
Well, Pluto TV's doing kind of a similar thing, right? Is that you have some online content channels,
right?
And
you can pop into them part way, and they're in progress.
Yeah, you kind of have that with Pluto.
I'll tell you what might be a really interesting idea is to, and maybe this is a bit too 1984 for anybody to find it attractive, but what if based on your sociological profile, your age, your background, and current credit score, whatever, you were assigned a cohort of 1,000 other people like you, and then it's like, look, we've watched everything you watched. You're gonna love it, and you're gonna have the social proof of other people watching it alongside of you. Because the only flaw with that is, coming in midway. If you're in the movie theater alone and you walk in mid-movie, you just be like, "Hey, can you back this up, start from the beginning or something?" But if you know,
maybe it's a generational thing though, because I have wanted the same thing Chris wants. Sometimes I just want to turn on and see what's on. There have been plenty of times where I just turned on HBO or I turned on AMC back in the day, and it was in the middle of Harry Potter, or it was in the middle of The Matrix, or it was in the middle of a Star Trek episode. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fine. I'm busy doing this other thing. I'll have this on. With Netflix, as soon as you turn it on, it's like make a choice, which changes your mindset from, oh yeah, this is good enough, to, okay, now I have to pick a thing. And that's what Chris is talking about. He wants the option to say, just throw something my way. You know what I like, Netflix. Just throw something my way.
And I think the only part he didn't say, but I perceive, is on top of that, if I come in midway, I want to know it's because everybody else is watching it, and that's just where we as a group are.
Yeah, I don't have that concern.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dave in Waco says he thought he would give us a couple perspectives from a long time, over a decade Cordkiller. The only form of sports ball he can imagine watching is soccer, and though he was able to find highlights of the World Cup games, they were mostly pretty bad. So he decided to get a month of YouTube TV, and overall was very happy with what he received for $40. All he had to do was click on record everything World Cup, and then he got each game, with the advantage that when he finally watched them a day or two later, not only could he get the game, no pregame, no halftime, no post-game shows, and he could watch at a faster speed, usually 1.5 times. I thought this was fascinating because that's the whole thing about if you just want to know who wins, you could find that out on a tweet, right? When a game ended, it would usually start up another game that he hadn't seen yet. But on 2 occasions, he got soap operas, which he didn't like. But he said, unfortunately, outside of that, he's got nothing outside of YouTube TV and is planning to cancel. But I thought that was a really interesting take.
Yeah. Oh, the soap operas thing is probably because World Cup happens during the daytime. So YouTube probably has some very simplified recommendations like, watched a daytime show, must give another daytime show, without really doing a lot of algorithm.
Well, and he said that he just expected better from YouTube, which I think is a testament to how well the YouTube algorithm seems to work.
Do you, Mikey, I'm curious, do you have any cord cutting services? Do you do PlayStation View, YouTube TV, anything like that?
No, I actually just re-upped with Spectrum. I'm sad, but I like DVR and simple stuff. I don't know. I'm bad. Yeah. I'm a horrible guest. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. We have many people in the crowd who are the same way, and our reaction to them is always whatever works for you. As long as you can watch what you want when you want, that's all that matters.
I watch a lot of Food Network.
Waterfall television.
Ben from Woodinville, Washington says, after hanging up in frustration on my annual please lower my bill call to Comcast, I ordered an antenna. I had tried a cheap one before, but this time I used a nice one recommended by AntennaWeb.org, and it worked much better than my previous experience. I'm one of those curmudgeons still loving Windows Media Center, but I decided to give Plex's relatively new TV DVR feature a try. Setup was easy, and the feature set is almost there, but the deal breaker is that you have to wait until a show is done recording to watch it. Hopefully they'll add that soon and I can switch over. I turned my cable card back into Comcast, dropped my internet speed to save a few more bucks, and reduced my bill from $98 a month to $45 a month. They threw in a free month of their instant TV service as well, and it's easy to justify a nice antenna when you're saving $53 a month. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, and finally, Greg says he's with us in theory when it comes to the general public about reviewing stuff on Netflix. We were talking about the recommendation engine and how they did away with stars and reviews or whatever. Instead, like, did you like it? Yes or no? But personally, he stopped even bothering to rate things because yes, no is way more difficult for him to decide than something on a scale of I hate it to I loved it, the old 5-star levels. Regardless, Netflix's recommendation used to be about putting content in front of me that they thought I would like. That's how I discovered Howl's Moving Castle and other Studio Ghibli Miyazaki movies because of Netflix's old recommendations. Now they just push their own new stuff with their auto-playing trailers, and I don't even have the option of the old not interested button to make it go away. All this despite the fact that I'm still most likely to continue watching that show that I've been going on through the past month. Sorry this got ranty. I'm just incredibly disappointed because the system that worked so well for me simply doesn't exist anymore. That said, I expect Tom's movie ratings from now on to be yes, no, instead of that good, bad, good, great, amazing scale he's been using. Keep up the good work. Yeah, you gonna get with the times, Tom?
No, I actually explained this last week. Not to miss Greg's joke. I get that he's joking, but the reason I do the great, good, amazing is because it's a natural feeling that I get when I'm watching. Yeah, that fits into a scale. Whereas if you do stars, you just end up always doing 5 stars or always doing 1 star.
Well, and then plus on top of that, you don't want to be inconsistent. You're like, well, I gave that 3 stars. Therefore, this one's definitely better. So it must be 4 stars.
Well, here's somebody who really does a good job telling you about movies. Mikey Neumann, thank you for joining us today, man.
No problem. You go check out FilmJoy on YouTube. That make me happy.
Yeah, youtube.com/FilmJoy. It is the bright, shining center of all things that are wonderful in film reviews. Am I right? Did I hear before we launched that you have a very special episode either out or coming out?
It's coming out next Friday. I'm still working on it. That's why I was hooking up my own phone to find all those pictures of me in the hospital last year. It's gonna be a fun one. But actually, it's me making a film, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, you really are? You're making a documentary?
I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still like Movies of Mikey, but it's a little more like it starts with a voiceover for me, and like it's interesting.
That sounds great.
It'll be
check it out,
fun.
folks. YouTube.com/filmjoy. Go like and subscribe and all those good things.
Yep.
Mostly just watch. It's good stuff. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Cut your cords again next week.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've
you
got a
just
name.
supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.